Hi people, it's Sarkovist here with a review for BioShock. After playing through the BioShock Infinite Burial at Sea DLC, I felt a strong urge to go back and replay the original BioShock. To be truthful, I didn't have an easy time playing BioShock the first time around several years ago now. I found the game to be so darkly atmospheric that I could not play the game for more than an hour at a time without being too scared to carry on. It was a very strange sensation. Never before had I felt frightened by a video game. I had played horror games before, but something about the game's opening sequence was so disturbing and unsettling that I found it difficult to press on. Thankfully though, my curiosity prevailed, and to be honest, it's impossible not to feel curious in a city such as Rapture. After playing the game again though recently, it may not scare me in the same way it once did, but the story is still very thought-provoking. The story begins with a plane crash over the Atlantic Ocean, where you find that your only possible way to survive is to head for a nearby lighthouse. You get in a bathysphere that takes you underwater, where you are introduced to the city of Rapture. At first glance, the city appears to be a utopia, but it's not long before you realise you have jumped out of the frying pan and straight into the fire. You find Rapture in a chaotic state where anarchy rules and danger lurks around every corner. You are quickly contacted by a man named Atlas, who serves as your guide through what remains of the once great city. The story is told in a number of ways, but one of the most prominent methods are the tape recordings you find lying around. These give you an insight into what the city was like before the catastrophe. You come across these tapes all the time, meaning that you will spend most of your time listening to them when you're not fighting Splicers. Speaking of which, the Splicers are Rapture's population that have gone mad through an addiction to Adam, a substance extracted from sea slugs. Adam granted Rapture's scientists the ability to genetically modify the population in a number of creative ways. However, as a nasty side effect, Adam also creates a chemical dependency, making it highly addictive. Therefore, the Splicers are always on the lookout for Adam, and there is no greater source of the stuff than the Little Sisters. These genetically modified girls have undergone a number of procedures designed to turn them into Adam harvesters. Naturally, this makes them a prime target for Splicers, and that's where the Big Daddy comes in. These hulking brutes are extremely tough bodyguards that escort the Little Sisters, attacking anyone who harms them, including you. The game's core narrative is very entertaining, with a significant moment that, while I'm sure many are aware of, I won't elaborate on here. You listen to the main characters almost exclusively through your radio, which I think was a wise choice, considering that when you do see them up close, you'll notice the character models aren't very good. BioShock is primarily a first-person shooter with a few role-playing elements thrown into the mix. Along with your conventional weapons, you also have Plasmids, which are acquired throughout the course of the game. The effects of these abilities can range from firing a bolt of electricity from your hands to unleashing a swarm of bees. Plasmids can be targeted directly at enemies, or you can combine them with certain aspects of the environment. For example, you can light an oil spill on fire or electrocute multiple enemies standing in water. Using Plasmids along with your weapons is an important skill to learn, especially when you're facing the Big Daddies. Big Daddies are neutral by default, they will only attack if you hurt them or the Little Sisters they are guarding. When you do provoke them though, they fight back with terrifying determination and ferocity. It's wise to stay close to cover and use your most effective weapons against them. If the Big Daddy you defeat was guarding a Little Sister, you are given two choices. You can harvest them for more Adam, or you can save them so they can bring you gifts later on. There is also the moral dilemma to consider. If you harvest them, are you really any better than the Splicers you fight? I mentioned the game also has some role-playing elements, and these come primarily in the form of tonics. The effects of tonics are quite varied. There's something for every aspect of the gameplay. However, you are only able to choose a limited number of tonics at any one time, but you can swap them out at a gene bank. BioShock also features a hacking minigame that involves organising pipes to direct the flow of water to the correct location. Personally, I didn't really care for the minigame, and it ended up feeling like a chore. Being an older game, it's not really fair to judge the game's graphics by modern standards. Sure, the visuals do look a bit dated now, but it's managed to age reasonably well thanks to the confined environments and dark lighting. What I can say though is that the city of Rapture looks great from a creativity standpoint. Each of the districts you visit has a distinct look, with Arcadia perhaps being the most unique, aesthetically speaking. Although the game is set in the 1960s, Rapture was planned and constructed during the 1940s, and the influence from that era prevails throughout the entire city. BioShock was certainly an amazing game as of its release, but is it still worth getting today? Despite certain aspects of the gameplay feeling quite antiquated, BioShock's excellent story is still worth experiencing, and Rapture's claustrophobic atmosphere sets it apart from the more recent BioShock Infinite. It may have a few flaws by modern standards, but ultimately, Rapture is still worth a visit.